Randy Rhoads was undeniably one of the most influential heavy metal guitarists ever. With his original, classically inspired sound, he revitalized the genre and paved the way for the shredding movement that followed. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the key elements of the Rhoads style and learn what made him such a unique and memorable talent in the guitar world. Randy was a riffmeister, and his are some of the most memorable in all of metal. Let's take a look at some of his favorite tools for playing rhythm parts. A pedal tone is basically a repeated bass note under a series of changing chords. In the heavy metal style, this usually means palm muting a low note and interjecting some chord jabs above. Crazy Train and I Don't Know are excellent examples of this. Here's an example of this classic device in the key of A. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this example, the open A string is acting as our pedal tone, and we're playing two-note power chords above it on strings 4 and 3. And we're also adding our palm here to mute the low A string, which makes it more percussive. We release the palm mute for the power chords. A lot of times, Randy would arpeggiate chords as a form of contrast in the bridge of a song, maybe, or in a ballad. You can hear this approach in Goodbye to Romance and in the bridge to I Don't Know. He'd usually stick to chord tones, but he'd add some decorations every now and then with scalar runs, double stop figures, or passing tones. Here's an example of this style. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just playing through the chord tones or adding little embellishments with other scale tones. Most of this progression has a D mixolydian sound, so that's the scale most of the embellishments come from. But the F chord at the end of the progression is borrowed from the parallel D minor. So on that chord we draw from the D minor scale, or more specifically in this case, D minor pentatonic. Over the first F chord we play this, and then for the last F chord we actually just run down the D minor pentatonic scale. Another thing Randy was a master of was adding fills into his rock riffs. There was rarely a dead space in a Randy Rhoads track. Let's look at some of his favorite types of fills. Since A minor was a favorite key of Randy's, we'll use our first riff in A minor as an example and demonstrate how various fills could be used over it. One of the simplest is a well-placed pinch harmonic. It's a good way to really grab someone's ear. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to choke up on the pick a bit and have your thumb brush the string at the same time the pick does. It'll take a bit of practice, but you'll eventually get it down. It sounds great on lots of different notes. Randy also made use of natural harmonics in his fills. The ones on the 5th and 7th fret were the most common. He'd usually add a dip with the whammy bar, or bend the neck a bit to make them stick out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another favorite fill of Randy's was cascading down the A minor chord form with pull-offs to the open strings. Sounds something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Use some left-hand muting to make sure you're not allowing the open strings to ring out. When it came to solos, Randy was one of the greatest of all time. His leads were exciting, melodic, virtuosic, and very memorable. They usually contained both flash and melody and were constructed with a logical sense of direction and purpose. One of Randy's favorite solo devices was a fast, repetitive lick, usually from a minor pentatonic scale. You can hear these types of licks in Flying High Again, Mr. Crowley, and Crazy Train, to name a few. Here are some examples in D minor. I'll play them fast and then again slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here it is slow. This one's a little quicker, but the pull-offs help with the speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here it is slowly. And this one sounds good with a little palm muting. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again slow. Randy also used sequences quite a bit. Sometimes these were flashy pentatonic runs, as in Mr. Crowley. Something maybe like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll slow that one down for you. And sometimes they were more melodic, diatonic phrases, as in this Goodbye to Romance-like lick. 1, 2, 3, 4. He'd also throw in a diminished seventh arpeggio sequence into his lead sometimes. You can hear this in Steal Away the Night and in the live version of Suicide Solution during the cadenza. Something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here's that one a little slower. One of Randy's trademark sounds was his mixture of the natural minor and blues scales. Listen to I Don't Know and Crazy Train for some classic examples of this. In the key of A minor, the scale would look like this in the familiar fifth position form. Here's a typical Rhoads lick with this form. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a little slower. Another classic Rhoads device is to take a short lick and move it chromatically up or down. He used this technique for some fills on Crazy Train and in the solos of I Don't Know and Suicide Solution, among others. Here's an example in A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that one a little slower. Well, that's going to do it for this lesson. I hope you've gained a new respect for Randy's style, and be sure to check out the original recordings to hear how these techniques sound in a real musical context. Have fun.